Good morning, everyone. Um, so we will kickstart the lecture now. So let every one of us get ready. And I've sent the YouTube channel for those who will join through YouTube. So please, in case you're a course rep or you have your different groups, please, you can forward the YouTube channel so that in the next few minutes, we're going to start the lecture proper. So if you have, for the meantime, if you have any question, anything, you can use the chat because I don't want distraction. So everybody is muted. So once I'm done and I want your response, I will ask you to unmute. Right, good morning once again. We would start the lecture. So I will just have a recap of all we've done so far. Then we will now move from where we are. Before I proceed further, for those of us who have been asking about the assignment or the practical on the law book, I've said that some of us should hold on, that I will explain what is expected of you today. Then probably we will end. Then I'll also give you when to submit and the mode to submit. I've been seeing or hearing a lot of things on various chat groups on this. We'll give you a definite instruction, and then we'll tell you the best way to go about it so that we will all agree, and then we'll give a set date where it will be easier for us to coordinate the submission. So we've started looking at certain things, and I believe everybody can see my screen is shareable to everybody. So let's move on. And so what we've been dealing with, or what we've been looking at, is basically Visual Basics as a programming language. And then we've looked at several things. Last week, we talked about the learning objective. What are the things at the end of this section of the course, what you're meant to learn. We define what is programming, and a programmer. So we're able to reach a conclusion that a programmer or a program is a sequence of instructions to solve a particular problem or to perform specific tasks. And we agreed that you cannot solve a problem you don't understand. You cannot solve a problem you don't understand. So first thing is, do you have an idea about the problem? And I think that's part of the things we're having in terms of the practical things you need to do in the logbook, because your understanding of the problem will be able to help you to break the problem into sub-program or sub-session for you to solve. So we've also looked at programming the act or the process or the activities of writing this program. And whoever writes this code is called a programmer. Then looked at general knowledge from what we've said, that the three key things when you write a program is, one, there are certain input, various set of input. Those input are being processed, and once they are processed, they give us an output. So it just input, the processing, and the output. So that is just in a nutshell what the program does. So you have set of input that either you want the end user to, or you get the input from different sources. And once those inputs are gotten, so what the next thing is to process them. You have already given the computer some basic set of instructions on how to process those inputs. And once those inputs have been processed, then we have the output. And I've said it, your output must reflect the solution to that particular problem, not just writing code. So, and then we were able to look at Polea's steps of applying those concepts to solving computational problems. So we looked at those four major steps. One is the U, understanding the problem. D, devise a good plan to solve it. Then I, implementing the plan. And then after you have implemented the plan, you need to evaluate your solution. Is your solution meeting the need? Is your solution meeting the purpose of writing that code? So another issues about programming, which we talked about, that fact about programming, is that is programming for a specific kind of people? No, it's not just meant for computer science. Anybody can get involved, and even not in these days of advanced technology and emerging technology, where every field on earth now is applying technology to solve their problem. So we also have at the back of our mind that you can develop yourself within your domain area of specialists to be able to apply some level of not particularly being a programmer, but your ability to use some of these IT tools or AI tools in your field. With programming, you have ATM. We've talked about all of these. We have everything, things of robotics, internet, and all of that. So we were able to discuss about BASIC, and we said last week that BASIC is an acronym that has to do with beginner all-purpose symbolic instruction code. That is the meaning of BASIC, because the word BASIC is an acronym that represents these key things: beginner, all-purpose, symbolic, instruction, and code. So we also looked at various versions, and we said last week that BASIC came as an answer to the more complicated programming language like Fortran, Algol, and Cuba, where you have to write series of code. And I said last week too that BASIC is an event-driven language. So what that means is that you create your window, you create your user's interface. So that's basically what we have in terms of, I'm just trying to rush through or glance through what we did last week. VB is event-driven, meaning code remains idle until called upon to respond to some event. So we've talked about all of these, that you can design your users, graphic users interface with a form and every other thing. They become idle. They are not doing anything. They are not performing any tasks until you give what is referred to as command. Placing all of those control on your form does not trigger any events. It's until you write some basic code, and then those code is what will trigger those events. It's those code that will trigger those events. So so these are interface, typical interface of what we have. So we can replicate some of this interface using VB. Then we talked about various versions of VB, what the versions are. Then we're able to look at the VB application interface. So this is a typical VB6 application interface, where we have the form, which is this, and then we have all other parts of the toolbars and all of what we have. So this is basic structure of VB application. So VB application contains all of these. We have the form, which is window that you create for the user's interface. We have the control things. Those are the things you drop on the form. Then we have the property. Each, including the form and the control, have property. And the more you adjust, the more you work on the property, the more whatever you are doing is being reflected on the control or the form. So we have the method, and we have the procedures, and we have the general procedure, event procedure code related to some object. So this is the code that executes a certain event. So all of these are things we would try to see how we would do and work on today. So this is the basic steps in writing a typical application in VB. A typical application in VB is in this form. One, you have to draw the user's interface, assign property to those control, and attach code to those control. So the first thing is to create that interface, and once you've done that, then look at the control. Go to the property of each of those control, try to adjust those properties to fit in to what you want to display or how you want the control to look like. Then to trigger events, you just have to write some basic codes. So we have these as the user center and setting property. Visual Basics operates in 3 modes. So either it's in the design mode, run mode, and break mode. So these 3 modes are very important when you are writing or when you are developing an application in VB. So it's either it's in the design mode, which is the first thing, where you design, place the form and all of those control. Then you have the run mode, which is when you run the application itself. So we focus here to design the design mode. So this also is the window. The main window consists of the title bar, menu bar, and toolbar. So I've explained this last week, what each of those things. Then I also talked about the form. What is the form? So once you get to the application, you ask them, you go to project, and once you get to project, you try to create a form. So once you create the form, this is the toolbar. So this is where you can place your tools. These are the control. These are the control. So you pick any of this control and place on the form. So once you're able to do that, that will become part of the form, and you can write some other things about those forms. That means you can get codes from them. So this, once you put either a form or a control, you can adjust how the form or the control looks like. And this is a typical form of it. So you find out that adjusting anything here will reflect on either the form or the control. So this is a typical window. Then we have where we call the project a window, where every form, everything you're doing is displayed within your working environment, your IDE. So you can add a control to a form by either double-clicking it or dragging it, or just pick it from the tool box and then drag it into the form and release it. And then you can now resize it. So this is part of what we looked at. So we agree that we might just look at a typical form of it. So so we would try to see what we can be able to look at, and then see if we can try to run a typical form of it. So let's look at, let me try to do something now. So if we can still have access to the VB6, so that we can just look at 1 or 2 things. So can we all see my screen in terms of so I want to be sure we are all in the same page. So I've tried to work within the VB6 so that we can see. Okay, so fine. All right, so we have, can you see the VB6 platform now? I just wanted us to be sure we are on the same page. I have to mute everybody. So, all right, good. So let's, now this is it. So once you run a typical Visual Basics 6, because I want to use 6 to explain, because several of us have 6. And then for those who have a Visual Studio, maybe this week or next week, I will explain to you how you can use Visual Studio, either from 22, the latest they have it. So all you just need to do is to download the VB form. So once you have that, the VB form will come up, I just download VB. So you have the form and the console application. So the next thing, we have several things you can do. Data project, admin, and all of that. But what we are interested in is the standard executable. So we want to see to create a very simple one. So we just say open. So once we say open, it gives us this. This is the what we have during the lecture. So this is a typical example of what we have. So with this now, you can resize your window, depends on what you want to do. You can resize it and then put some things in it. So you can do that and then so once you have this now, this is the typical window we'll be talking about. If you looked at by this side, we have all the two we talked about. So you can play around all of those two bars and all of that. But what we want to do is just to create a simple login form. So for you to do that, that's where the issue comes about the assignment. You have to first and foremost decide what are your input, what are your output. Then you also need to decide how you want the interface to be. You can sketch it. You can sketch it. Oh, I want this to be here, I want this to be in this form and all of that. That is the point whereby you have the problem specification. We've done that. Then we now have how you are able to just look at, okay, do I understand it? Let me analyze the problem itself. After analyzing it, okay, this should be my input, this should be my output, this way. Then you can now go ahead and design. And part of your design is drawing all of these where you want them to be. Then implementation is just writing code, because each of those control must be triggered. They must trigger an event. And to trigger an event with them, you must try as much as possible to write code on them. So we move ahead. So let's try to create a simple one now. So let me say, if I want to develop maybe a login form now, I will have the user's name and the password. The user's name and the password. So let me say I have, this is labeled. So you need to know what all of this controls. So let me pick a label. If you see I picked a label, it's either I dragged it. Did you see I've dragged it? And then I try to draw it here. So you see I've drawn label 1 now. So I have label 1. Now, this is where the issue is now. If you see, once I click on label 1 and label 1 is highlighted, look at my rightmost part. Did you see the project, where you have project and then property? You can see at the right-hand part, you will see where they have property. Can we all see where they have property? So you will see each of these property have effect on the control. So for example, if you see caption, let's start with the caption. You can see caption here. Now the caption here is saying what? Label 1. If I come to my control, I say, no, I don't want it to be label 1 because I have a specific name. I can say, okay, let me put it as what? Users, let me put it in for users name. So once, if you notice, as I'm typing user's name, it's reflecting on the label. Label is just something that I just want to use to label or for like a signboard to point to something. So once I've done that and I release, you find out that here I have what? User's name. So I'm expecting the person to enter user's name. And because there must be where the users must enter value. And in VB, we use the text box. So I can say, okay, fine, I also need the text box by the side. So I click on the text box, brings it here, and then try to put something here. You could see there's a text box now beside it. I can drag it a little bit, reduce the size if I want to. I can play around that and then see. So you see, I've added a text box to it, so I can bring it closer to there. So okay, enter. So what I'm expecting now, you see the text is text 1. You could see it's text 1. So I can just have this. So I have this now. I have my user's name, and then I expect somebody to put in value there. So let's have that. So apart from this, I've done this. Now, I've said the goal, the objective is to create a login. So in login, I have already visualized, oh, this is how the login might be, the user's name, where the person will enter it. Then I'll also ask myself, what about thing? Oh, I need a password. I need a password. So let me go, I'll put a label again, click, get the label, draw another label here, put another label here. And then the same way I go to where I have my what now? My property, where I have my property. So where I have my property, I will go back and okay, this time around, what I need is for the person to enter password. So I go under caption again, I'll say password. So automatically the person is expecting to put a password. So where will the person put the password again? I go again and say, okay, I need a text box for the password to be dropped there. So I come up again, draw something like this. Now I say, okay, this is now the text for the password. So I have this. So I have the first text for, okay, so you could see I have the first text. Now, if you look at the form, now I have highlighted the form. You see the form has a caption too. Did you see the form has a caption? So I can change. Here I have form 1. I can say, no, I want the form to represent what I'm doing too. So I go to where I have and answer, okay, this is log. Sorry, okay, we have log. Let me put in cap so that log in form. So because I want, did you see, as I put login form, it's displayed as the title of the form, So each of the control has a property. The more, like this is the property, this is what makes the form or whatever you're doing. So once you are able to play around this property, it reflects on the form. So one major thing is, like they say, practice makes perfect. As you walk around some of this property, it will have a reflect on the form or the tools or control you are using. So we have done this. Then the next thing is that once the person enters his user's name and also enters his password. So what we need to do is to say, okay, fine, let's have two things, two control, two commands. So when I click OK, it does something. When I click cancel, that means it's either what I want to do, or do I want to exit the form? That means to close down the form, or I just want to do some other thing. So what I will do is that I will create what is called a command button. So that once I click that command button, something should occur. That's where we talked about triggering that event. So let me say this is the command button, so I can put one of it here, draw one here, size it very well. Okay, so I can have one here. Okay, so I have one. Then if you look again at the caption, I can say, okay, fine. For this caption, let me just put something like okay. So I have that. Then I can create another button somewhere here. Say, okay, another button here. And I can call this one here to be cancel or exit, whichever one I feel. So you see, I've created a simple login. I've created a simple login in VB. What I've done so far is just placing command or control, but I've not triggered any events at all. So what I've just done is to put, so let's run this to see how what we have created is looking like. Let's have to see. Okay, so for some of us who are asking for the executable file, yeah, I could do that for you to. Yes, someone said, is this the same with VB6? Yes, I'm even using VB6. I'm trying to look at some questions so that there will be the same page. I'm using VB6, so I've not used okay. So someone okay, so I hope for some of us the is clear. I hope we are following how we are working towards how some of these things. Then I'll give you, maybe what I'll do is to try as much as possible to ask you to unmute. Then I will take 1, 2 questions. Then I would mute everybody back so that we can move ahead. So let's run what we have. Let's run what we have. Let's run what we have. Okay, so someone is asking, can we use another software? Can we use another software application? Like, yes, I've said it, Visual Studio. You can use Visual Studio. Okay, maybe let me just show some of us. I think after now, I will try and use Visual Studio. I'll use Visual Studio. I'll run my Visual Studio for those who are asking for it. Or somebody said V6 is no longer available. So we can use Visual Studio. I will go to Visual. I will display that of Visual Studio and for us. But some of us can still have, it's still available. It's just that some system might see VB6, some of its things as a virus and will not allow you to install. We see it because of the way it's updated and all of that. It might be seen as a virus. So, and then some of those things that should make VB6 run on your system would have been more or less quarantined and all of that. So let's run this. Then I'll try and see how we can have a display with Visual Studio itself. Okay, so let's run this now. So let me run. So this is the run button. So you will see in your app, this is the run button. So when I run this now, can we see the final outputs? Are we on the same page? Can we see this? Can we see what we have on the screen now? All right. Okay, fine. So we've seen what we have. We've seen that this is now the output. Now, if you notice, okay, so I'm still coming. Deborah, just keep your hands raised. So once I'm done with this, I would like to unmute or ask you to unmute. Then we can take questions on this so that everybody can be in the same page. Okay, so now we all can see. So if you notice, user's name is saying text1, password is saying text2. So something is wrong. I don't want anything to display. I want the person. So if I do, I'll be struggling with this. I get feeling so okay, I want to take this out before typing anything I want to do, or come back here. I want to take this out before type. But this is not a good. That means something is wrong in my trying to initialize how my control, the text box control looks like from the property. So I can go back and do something. So now if you look at this, or this is what we talk about. Do you see I'm saying okay, okay, okay. No event is triggered because there's no command, there's no code. It's okay. Once I click okay, do some certain thing or exit from it, oh, it's not saying anything. So we find out all of this is just like you are designing. You have not written any command, any code. If you notice that you have not written any code so far. So it's okay, once it's okay, do this. Once it's this, do that. So let's go back. Let's go back now to our form. Let's go back to our form. You see, I've gone back. I've left the running mode. You know, I said earlier on that we have the design mode, we have the run mode, and we have the break mode. We have been working between the design mode, which is where we are now, and when we run the programs, it takes us to that run mode where the end users make use of whatever we have done. So I will still, let me do something here before. All right, now look at this. Let's go back to our text box. You know, our text box is saying text one, text two. We don't want to see that. So I can go back to my text and say, once I don't want to see, let it be an empty text. So I go to where I have text one, I take it out, come back here, where I have text two, take it out because I don't want anything to display. I want it to be empty. So if I run this again, do you find out my what you are giving me is much better now? It's showing me a cursor telling me, put your user's name. If I say user's name is me, then put what? My password is you. Now, again, something is wrong. For some of us who have, look, I don't want people like now, people are seeing my password. People are seeing my password. I've said my user's name is me, anybody can see that. But look at their password, it's just showing you. So while I'm tapping it, people are saying it. So I will ask for password for this text box. Is there anything that can help me to encrypt or to make people not to see it? So I check the property. Or am I going to do it by writing a code? So I check the property of that thing. Now, one thing in programming is that you might not have an idea. That's why you have several things online about how to go about it. But if you have an understanding of the problem and what you want to do, so the next thing is to ask yourself, how do I have or get the knowledge on how to do it? There is nothing, and that's why you could see technology is advancing. When there's a problem, we have a set of people thinking and trying to say, okay, how do I solve it? How do I use this? Okay, how do I manipulate this? How do I do this? And putting more effort, one way or the other, you might have a breakthrough. So we'll find out that there's something wrong there. So I can go back to my text box. I'm teaching you now how you can start from a very small form. You might not just run on it. Oh, it's not giving me what I want because I want it to look like this. I go back and I try to adjust it until I get to that perfect solution that I feel is good enough for me to use in solving the problem. So let's go back. I'm trying to do something so that we'll come back. Now I can now go to, I've seen for my user's name text box, it can be, I don't need to put some things. Then let me now go to my password. Now, look at this password. Text is this. Now, if you check the property, I can look at the property here. Do you see anything like password character? If you look at here, did you see that we have password? Look at the rightmost down part of my screen. You will see where we have properties. Properties, see text 2. Now, that text 2 is where I want to use. Now, see that, oh, there's a one of the properties that says password character. That means I can use a password character here. So if I say, okay, I want to use a star password character, so that once I'm typing, nobody sees it. It shows star, 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 star. So what I need to do is that, okay, let me use the star. I can use any other one. Now, immediately I put password character to be star. Now, I have altered the initial property of that text, but I don't want people to see what. Just give me a character that will be showing while I type on this text box. So I go back and run the code. Now I have the same thing I've done before, me. Now I come to my password, I say you. We find out that, did you see the difference from where we're coming from now? It's like password, so fine, nobody is saying it. So I have been able at this point to design my login form the way it should be designed and the way I feel will work better from the starting point where we just place those control on the form And after placing the control on the form, we try to adjust the control with the property we have and put several property and all of that. So once we're able to do this, that solves what we have. So I will maybe later today look at how to now work on see exit. So okay, so worked on once I click on a button, it should trigger an event. So this is a typical login form we have created, and we have run it, and we have seen how from running it, we have adjusted the property to fit in. The only thing we have not done is to write code. The only thing we have not done is to write a command that will trigger an event, which we would look at or we would do before we end today's class, at least on this log form. We just play around it. Okay, so I will take questions now. Before, let me ask you to unmute yourself, and then I can take in one or two questions. All right, so okay, you can unmute. So I'll start from the person that I've been raising up hands since I think that was the first person that raised up a hand. I'm trying to get her now. Okay, so let me hear from you.
Hello, sir. So the question
you
I
can
asked,
unmute and talk now.
So the question I asked was how to move from the design mode to the run mode, but you've answered it already.
Okay, so, all right, sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes,
now
sir.
your questions.
Yes,
so let me take questions now.
So I guess so I'd like to ask something. So
okay, so can I not who is okay, so let's hello.
So I'd like to ask a question.
Okay, so all right, so let somebody else. I think a network is having issues. So I have Abioye is an app. So let me start calling you fast now. Abioye is an app. So your question. Good morning.
So what you want to what you want to view what is in your password box? Like you want to
If you
view
want to
what
view
you wrote in it. Yes.
What you wrote. Now, you see, the essence
Yes.
of this thing is this interface is just for the end user, the client. Your code is going to get, we have not gotten to where code or where we are linking up with the database and some other things. Even in database, I can encrypt my database that I don't want even the administrators to know what it is. So when we deal with data, where passwords are very, very sensitive, are very serious things. You don't just let loose. But there is a way. We have not gotten to where what's it called? The what is being typed. We can get the value of what is being typed, and that is the programmer end. That is the programmer end. But this is just interpretation. So when I'm typing, let nobody sneak in and see what I'm typing. So that's why I put character there. So the code part will tell you whatever you have put, it can return it. We'll try and see how we do that. The character is just to make people not to see. But whatever is in there, I can ask, what's it called? A variable. I can declare a variable and ask whatever is being typed inside that text box to be assigned to a variable. When we get to the coding part where we are triggering events, you will understand what that is. Okay. All right. So okay, I think that is okay. So I go to Abdullahi.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, on the property 2 for that password to cover password, is it it's not compulsory to put the star, right? You can put any other character.
Another character. So let's let's do that. Any other character. So this is it. This is it. Is that not? We are still there. So you see where I have the character. Yeah, I can just go and which character? Pick anyone. I want to put art. Did you see? Yeah, I've done art. I've done art. You see, I put art there. So let me run it now for you to see. Did you see? I still have my me. Then I have the password now. I am putting you. Did you see?
Yes, sir.
Can you see now? Yeah, I'm putting
Yes,
you. It's showing me. So it's anything. So this is the essence of practice. This is the essence of playing around what you have. It's just dynamic. So it's how you are able to understand the concept and cramming. And then if you want to use it, you can use any other thing you want. So the style is just like I'm giving you the normal convention of when you want to put in password in any of those forms that are created, what is common. So, but you can do whatever you want to do, and then that solves it. Okay, so all right.
Also,
so
are you still going to take Visual Studio today?
Yes, I'm going to do that. I want to do that. So because I've seen people talk about Visual Studio. So I want to just show you how it looks like in Visual Studio. I have Visual Studio 2002. I think I do. So I will check. I will run that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So I have almost, I think I've dealt with almost everybody. 10. Yes, okay. I think I have about you here quickly. Okay. Okay, so wow. Okay, go ahead. Ask your question.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, I want to ask about the form color, the background color. Can we?
Yes.
So that it will be all that.
Yes, we can. Now let's go back to. So that's why I open up so that we can have a robust discussion after this before we move into the code, the trigger form of it, and then now. Okay, let's go. Let's go there. Now we have this. Is that not? Now I've highlighted the form. Can you see I've highlighted the form here? Now look at the property here, the form name. I can change the form name because I've told you when you're working, put names that you can use to remember what you are doing. Here, instead of saying form 1, let me start from here. I can say, no, I don't want form 1. I just want FRM to stand for my form. And this form is what? Log in. This is what I've done. So that when I want to write code, when I want to name, I'll just say form login instead of just saying form 1, form 2, and all of that. Now, let's move now. I want it to appear auto redraw. Do I want it to be auto redrawn every time? No. Now it goes to back color. So you see here. Have you seen here? I hope everybody is watching the left, the rightmost part where we have the property. I'm doing some things on the form now. Yes, so did you see where we have what? Back color. So I come here and click on it. Did you see that I have several back color that I can choose from? Anyone I feel. I want to change the color to maybe what do I do? Let me see. We have system color. We have other things. I can use system color. I can use play left. Did you see this? Okay, let me use this. So I can use whatever I want to. Let me use let me just take a pink color. Do we see? Can we see that it's changing? So let me go back. I say, no, this is too bright. I want something cool. Do you see this? Oh, no. You see, all as you deal with this property, it shows. And when you run it, whatever you have, I can say, no, this is not looking good. So you can play around with it. You can play around whatever you have. And then as you're playing around it, it's giving you what you want. You see, you can do that. You have several options to choose from. Okay, you have this, then you can do any of these. So if you run, whatever color you have chosen is what will display. We see from where we have. So I think that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you see, you can play around. There are other property. There are other property we can deal with. Okay, so Azan, I'll just take Azan, take maybe 2 more, and then we move on with what we have. Okay, Azan.
Good morning, sir. So I wanted to ask you about the Visual Studio. How about the download?
About what?
The download. Is it
the download? I've said VBCs, because I downloaded the VBCs for this for explanations. I had to download, but I find out while doing that I had to be able to ask the antivirus I have to allow some things, because it might see some of the file, the .exe file as a virus and all of that. Well, I will try and send a link where we can download with a VB6 if it will work for us. But for those who have Visual Studio, you can use Visual Studio. Once you have Visual Studio, telling Visual Studio that you want in the installer to include VB form or VB on its own, including the form, you will have it. You have this form. You have this form. You have it the same way we have and having all of it. I will try to run on the VB Visual Studios. I'll try to run on Visual Studios soon. So either way, I will send the 2. Either way, whichever one you feel will work for you, is the same thing. It's the same output you will have.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. So next person, hands up. I'll just take 1 or 2 more and then we move. So I will take Adams, then Sura Mikum, and then I will just take Ogeshi, and I think we should move into BC. I will just take the 3 of you. Okay, let me just pick those 1, 2, 3, 4. Please, after that, let's move on. We'll still come back to some of these things. Okay. Because I want us to, at least for this week, so we'll just have probably next week to round up everything. Okay. Adams.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, in the Visual Studio, are you going to be using any other programming languages?
If I hear everything, I'll slap you.
Any other? No, we're only using VB, because the essence of this course is to introduce VB, which is Visual Basics. Is that clear? So we're not using any other language like C, no. We're all like no. We're just using Visual. You get the point now? We're using Visual Basics, and under Visual Basics we have 2 forms. We have 2 forms. We have the cursor base, and we have a form base, which is the event trigger one. The cursor base is that if you want to create the users, the graphical users, that you have to use code to do that. You have to use code to do that. But this is just like the normal window type you drop in, and then after you have dropped to design, you now write a command to trigger event within what you have designed. Adams, I hope that answer your questions. Okay, let's go to the next person. Sura Miku, your hands is up. So.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
There was a question that says at running stage, and some do not have at running stage. Like, what's the difference?
You said what?
Like, question 1 says at running stage, and I noticed that other question they did not say at running stage.
No. What you will do is this: every of those assignments you have to do all of this. And you have to run, because in your implementation, how do you implement something? It's by running, is that not?
Yes, sir.
And so when you run, there should be an output. If your output, I will also advise, I said I will deal with the issue of the assignment. Thank God we are seeing what we meant to do. Like the first one that talks of multiply, you must give, okay, enter this value, enter that value. Okay, calculate. I've designed something like that. Once I click calculate, it takes me to that point. And once I do that, I click whatever output I'm going to get. It should be there. So All
Yes,
of
sir.
those assignments you must implement. And how to implement is to run your code, is to run it. And then whatever result you have, there's a point they will tell you appendix 1 is for your code, and there's another appendix if you want to put some interface of what you do. Maybe it's not the logbook and not. You can just print them out and attach them. But if you can have everything within what you have, no problem. There's no problem about that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. So I will take Ogechi and BC now so that we can move on.
So I wanted to ask for the color. Doesn't only have to do the system. Can you also the button? Can you also change the color?
Yes, you can. You can change it. Let's go. Let's look at OK button. Did you see under OK button? I've seen the names to be command 1. I can change. I've told you the caption I've said is what is true. So I can come look at default what I have, pictures, see all of those. If you see, I have everything. So front, did you see that? I can even change the front. Do you see? I don't want it to look like this. I can change the front. The height of it, I can change. The index, what now? Did you see the max color? I can change. All of the CC picture, I can even include picture if I want to make sure that it's showing sometimes. So if the more you click on all of this, it has an effect. Oh, do I make it visible or not visible? If I put no, not make it visible, that means once I run, this won't show. The width of it, what is I can change. I want it to be on top. All of this, once whatever I do here will deal with what I have here. So we can do several things on all of those phones, and it will come up. Look at the same thing with this. The front enables it, and all of this have whatever you're doing on the property. Did you see the back color? I can say, okay, let me change it to something else and say, okay, let's put it as blue. Did you see? Can you see just the label now? The color of the label. Have you seen? Then the text color, everything can change. So we can work with whatever we have, and then that be that. So,
I think.
All right. So I think I want us to proceed. Okay. Oluwadara Simi and Mark Peter. I will just take the two of you, and then I will proceed quickly.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I'm required to pick an app on Windows to be able to open the Visual Basic 6 app. So what app can be used to open it?
On say app, what are you using, a system or you're using a phone? A system. A Windows system. There's no app. The only thing is that if you have the .NET framework, everything, once you have the installer will install every necessary things you have, most if you are using a Visual Studio. But I don't think you have to install any other app to run it. So everything that is needed is embedded in the installer, and the installer will lead you to what is the only major issue I know is the .NET framework for Visual Studio or that you need to. But for VB6, there's nothing like you want to have any other thing. Okay. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mark Peter, the last person, so we move ahead and then we come back to this.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I just want to ask if we can get this class recording. Hello, sir.
Hello.
I just want to ask.
All right. Yeah. Okay. We can just I'm going to still leave it at my YouTube channel for people to watch, and then the recordings, even the last recording, I will have to send them.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, so I hope we are good to go now, and then we can proceed a little bit further. Let's proceed a little bit further. We're coming back. Oh, for those in the Visual Studio, I think, let me mute everybody again so that we don't really have. Okay. Okay, so I will maybe leave the issue about Visual Studio aspect of it towards the tail end, maybe 15 minutes to 10. I'll come back to that so that we can go back to the slide and see some things, then we can come back here. So let's go back to the slide. Okay. Are we all back to the slide? Can we all see or share the slide? Can we all see it now? Okay, so fine. Let's quickly now. So we have done this. You can see now, this typical example is quite, if you have followed us while we were doing this. Okay, hello, can you still hear me? Okay, yeah. So, all right. So if you had followed through to what we have, it will help you to now understand what you are meant to do on the logbook. For example, the first question there under problem specification says, write a program and design a form with label. You can do that now, such that when clicked on the command button, your name appears on the label at running stage. That was the question. Now, what that means, at that running stage you saw in the first question, is telling you, see, now you have to first analyze this under where you have analyzed. Okay, oh, what I'm meant to do, I'm meant to put 1, a label, 2, a command, and once the command is clicked, it should do something. I've analyzed it and I'm breaking it down. Now the design, I can also, okay, the form will be in this form. I have a label, I have a command. So when I click on that command, so the design is what we have just done using a VB, and then implementation is the code that we do that. We do that. So, okay, maybe I've said, as I promised, that I will, if time still permits, I will do the first one. I will run what we have. I will use the first one to explain what we need to do. All right. So if you have any question along the line, just type it as I have said, so that we can move. So now we have done a lot. We have seen how this particular thing works. So let's move on now. So I've done this too. So let's quickly look at, now we have seen form. So I want to see, how do I put command and trigger event? And for me to do that, I must have the basic fundamentals of VB. Because it's this fundamental that I will now use to write the code. So let's move faster now. So we've done all of these. If you want to declare variable, what are keywords? Keywords are special, exclusive, reserved words that cannot be used apart from their predefined meaning. So if I say I have dim, I cannot use dim as a variable again, because it's a keyword. Keywords are reserved words. So another word for keywords is that they are reserved words. If, for example, in exam, I ask, what is other name for keyword? You should know they are referred to as what? Reserved words. So I've talked about constant and how we declare constant. We did some of these things last week. Variable, what are variables, which is talking about the storage locations in the memory. And then because I have a storage location in the memory, I must give it a name that whenever I need to use it, I use the name to reference that storage location. So we talked about the conventional way of naming variables. And then we talked about our data types, that every variable you name in that storage location, you must tell us what type of data you want to be stored inside that memory location. So we have these. A typical example is the surname as string. We are saying surname as string, then surname is what is this. So we have this, we dealt with this. Then you can, for those using COSOL application in VB, this part is very, very, very necessary for you. How to bring in message box, input box, if you are not using the command prompt kind of a thing. So take note of these. For those using COSOL, or in Visual Studio, you'll be asked, are you going to write a VB, a console VB application, or you want the form-based form of it? So you must know, if you are using the COSOL base, then you must learn how to create a simple graphical user interface to help the end user to fill in some, or to send in some variable or some values into the system. So we've dealt with all of these expressions, assignments. We talked about data types, the types we have in VB. So take note of all of these types. And then yes, suffix means that what you can use to represent them if you don't want to put them in full. So if I have percentage A or a percentage, I'm talking about integer. If I have maybe A and then the half sign, I'm talking about this, hash, I'm talking about this. So we should just have that at the back of our mind. So declaration, how you declare the syntax is what dim variable as data type, comma dim variable. So you can do that. You can have them separated with a comma on a single line, or you can have them declared line by line. All is your choice of what you feel you can. Okay, so we've done all of these, then we've made examples. So this aspect of the code will help you. Like so far from what we've done, the practical session we just displayed, and this aspect, you can solve exercise assignment question number 1 without any problem. You can do it. Well, we'll do that. I think is part of what we'll end with. We'll do that. So this is what we have. Then we have constant. We talked about to declare constant. You see constant P as this equals to this. That means we have it. This is a constant. That pi cannot change throughout the program. So this is all. Then we've talked about the operators. We have the arithmetic operators, the logical operators, what this stands for. Like we have the exponential, like we have the star and then slash. We have division. Then we have mode. Now take note of these two divisions, because at times this can be issue. Have you seen two divisions? The forward slash and the backward slash. The forward slash is talking about truncating. While the backward slash is talking about the division that will give you the remainder. While the forward slash will truncate. For example, if I say probably 3 backward slash 2 will give me maybe 2, 3, that is, I will have 1 point, let's say 5, 1.5. If I put 3 forward slash 2, it will give me 1. Take note of that. Because these are some little things that you will find in exam and you're not careful about. You will see one as the answer. You will see, what is it? You will see 1.5. So take note of these. Take note of these. Take note of some of these little but key things since you'll be doing a multiple choice kind of exam. Okay, so I think we are following. Then after now, I will see unmute us to ask our questions. So, okay, so let's move on now. So we've done all of this. So I've explained this to us. I've explained this to us. We could see. We see what I mean. Evaluation for an expression is this, not the other way around. Not the other way around. So we have these, we have the symbols, we have the concatenating symbol. When we say concatenating symbol, Wolf, check this. Did you see this label.caption is the current time is format now. So this is just this, then text this plus this. Now to concatenate two strings, use the Harper sign symbol or the plus symbol. So this is what we do. So either this will tell me that I want it to be hook this to this. That's what it means. Hook this to this. Now, this format is talking about dates. Dates, and it brings in the dates and all of that. So we have now looked at our relational operators. We looked at arithmetic operators, what you need to understand. And then we looked at a relational as comparison. And then we move on to look at this now. Is A greater than B? Is A greater than or less than B? Is A equals to? So these are relational operators, and we know what relational operator this with. So logical operator is to combine two or more things together. So that's the logical operator. What they do is to compare verb, and then that will make things we have. So these basically are the building block. Then we have Visual Basic function. Take note of these functions. These are inbuilt functions. In VB, we have functions you can write, and we have inbuilt functions. Inbuilt functions are the functions that are already there. So, and most of the time, we tell people why reinventing the way when you can use some of these functions and move on. Like date. Now you could see format, date or number converted to text, then date. These are things you can use when running your code. So this is examples of what we have. So that ends a part of the fundamentals. Now let's quickly look at the control structure. Let's look at control structure before we move into the aspects of what. So let's quickly look at control structure. What is it? Because you are making decisions. Because you are making decisions. Because you are making decisions, you must select. Once you are making decisions, you will select from options. So what helps us to select from options is the control structure. And because some certain problem, you need to go through them repeatedly before you can get an optimal solution. So you have to look, you have to iterate through those steps until there is what? An optimal solution. So these two are crucial and critical to decision making. So we want to now look at what structure in VB can help us achieve selection, achieve repetition of processes until we get to a criteria that we ask us for. All right, so let's look at it. Visual Basics execute instruction statement in 3: sequence, selection, and looping. Selection and looping, some places they will tell you selection and looping, but we can put it in this form, the sequence. In sequence, the instruction are executed one after the other in order in which they are written in the program. That means it does not flow, it does not bypass from 1 to 2 to 3. Good. Then selections involve choosing instruction to execute one or two more alternatives depending on the value of that expression. So that is what selection. Selection is that I have a thing I need to compare. Once it holds, it comes here, but if it doesn't hold, it goes. So we have several options to choose from. So the criteria of the value of what we are dealing with will determine which options we go to. Then we have the last one. Looping is what? Execution of group of instructions repeatedly until certain condition is satisfied. So these are basically the control structure we have in VB. So we'll quickly look at that. And then, okay, I'm seeing some of our discussion in the chat room. Fine. So we have to take note of some of these things that once you are using the forward or the backward slash, what this stands for. So now let's pick the first aspect, which is the selection, which is dealing with branching, which is the if. For the if, we have a singular if logical expression, then execute a statement. So this is the syntax of what? Of an if. So if logical expression, then execute, then end if. So this is how we deal with the if. The if is one of the control structure that is across almost all programming language, but their syntax is what differs. But in VB, take note of this syntax. We have if without bracket, logical expression. Then, for some of us who have started writing some other program like C, you will find out that it has a little bit of different if structure. So this is for VB. VB will tell you if without open and close bracket, the condition. Once the condition will, then what you need to do, and then you can end your if. Okay, so this is. So we have another aspect. We have the singular if you are just considering a particular condition, nothing else. But if you have two conditions like on and off, Boolean, true or false, you can use the else. So if this condition holds, the two parts will be executed, else the first part will be executed. So you can use a singular if, just if, dash, and you are not considering any other thing. Once that condition does not hold, it leaves the if statement. It does not do any other thing. We just consider it and go. But if I have to choose between two options, I have to use the else form. If expression, then the next, just like off and on, true or false, yes or no kind of problem I want to solve. So once it is yes, do the, then once it is not yes, it is no, then it does the other one. So take note of this. So a typical example is what we have here, that the issue about flag. If flag is true, then drink hot tea. Else, definitely drink ice water. It talks about the weather. If the weather is cold, that is a flag. My flag would be the weather condition. And the weather condition I'm considering is not the hot, it's the cold one. So I'll say flag should be what? Cold. So now says if it is cold, do what? Drink hot tea. Else it is not cold, the weather is not cold, then you can take chill ice water. So because it is either it is cold or hot. So that means I'm considering the weather to be what? Cold or hot. So this is what we have in that. So we have dealt with a singular if, we have dealt with just one if. So this is just what we have. Then we have the last case of the if. That means if I have options that are more than one, that are more than two. If I have an option that is just one, I use a singular if that thing, then do that and leave. Then if I have two options, I use what? If that option is true, then do something else, do the otherwise. But if I have more than two options, I need to deal with. So I need to create the else if. If is option one, else if option two, else if option three, else if option 4, until I get to what is called the default, which is the S. If all of these options, so nothing, or maybe I just want to say, okay, you must choose within these options. You must choose between option 1 to 10. I can tell you the first one, my first if will be for option 1, option 2, option 3, option 4, 5 to the last option. I can now say S because I expect you to choose within those options. My S might not be another option, might be like, oh, sorry, you have not chosen within the range you are meant to do. So the S here could be, I used to tell people, develop a programming habit that in this kind of your multi-if statement for solving problem, that your last else should be a default. What will be that if those something that will control the end users, that look, you are meant to choose within an option. You have not chosen within that option. That's why there is issue. Then go back and do that. So you see, for multi decisions problem, you must use the multiple if, which is the F, which is the if, then S if, until you get to your last default, which is the S, which will be the final thing that needs to be executed. So this definitely is what we have in what we deal with the F, with the if statement. So let's so this is a typical example of what we have in terms of the if. This is just looking at an example of the days of the week, Now, do you see this is just a typical example of what I just mentioned now? The day of the week. So we are declaring a variable, and that variable is a string. Now, this code will be a little bit good for a cursor-based application in VB. But if you want to design this on the form-based VB, you can place the form, you can place where you have the label to tell the person what to do, then where we enter the text box and then create a variable to hold whatever is gotten from the text box, and then use them, and then create a label or something that we get the output. But this will definitely work basically more when it comes to this. So what we have is that day of the week equals to what? Input box. This input box will now come up, will show something, and a user's graphical input box that will put on top of that that user's graphic input to say, okay, enter whatever it is. Whatever that person's enter will be stored in day of the week. Then we'll now, if this day of the week, what the person enter is 1, then message, print something out that is Sunday. Else, if it is 2, say it is Monday. If it is 3, till 7. Say Saturday. Else, message that only 1 through 7 is expected. Maybe he has put 8. Once it is 8, we'll check, is it 1? No. Is it 2? Oh, it's 8. It goes to the S. And just put there that only 1 through 7. So it's just reminding the person, you are meant to enter between 1 and 7. So the person goes back and then does whatever he can do. So this is all about the if statement. And then we move to another selection is the case. For the case own, we have the same ways of selecting, but using different syntax of performing the same task. So we've seen the if statement. For that of case, select case. Select case, examine a variable or expression, allow the choice to match possible values. Usually a default is like the last thing I talked about. So let's look at what we have doing the same thing. We have days of the week, the same input box, sending values. Then this is where, did you see select case? I want whatever the person has entered in day of the week is what I want to select. We now say if it's case 1, do this. If it's case 2, do this. If it's case 3, do this. If it's case 4, up to case 7. Up to case 7. Then case else, which is the default case, is what? You have the same message. So it's the same way you have if equals to 1 inside the if. Is here is that the case talks about the value. So if it's case 1, oh, is the value 1? Do the oh, is the value 2? Then if you are dealing with string value, you put quote. This is the 2 way you can make selection in Visual Basic. This is the way you can make selections in Visual Basic. So we have looked at the 2 forms of selections in Visual Basics, and then we will move to looping. Looping is repeating certain things repeatedly. Okay, I want to perform a particular task 100 times. You have to start doing them one by one. No, I can create a loop that will keep doing it until you get to the 100th point. So one of it is the for loop. One of it is the for loop. So we'll look at the for loops and see how to use the for loop for that. Look at the for loops. So we looked at the for loop when we looked at what we have. So for the for loop, we have for the index equals to value to whatever value step this. Then you have next index. So you must first define what an index is, and then your index will be any variable at all you want to use. Then the value, start from this value from 1 to 10. In step 1 means that from 1 goes to 2, goes to 3. Then you execute this statement in between. Then you have the next is the index. So this is a loop. So this is a loop. So this is a typical example of what we are saying. Did you see sum equals to what? So I want to have, look at it, write a section of code that add integer from 0 to 19 and print the sum. 0 to 19. I want to have 0 to 19. So I want to have 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 up to 19. So how do I write a simple VB code for that? So I'll say sum equals to 0. Initialize your sum. I've said the essence of initializing when you want to do something like summing and all of that is like you go to the market and you want to buy something. You first ask the person you want to use whatever I want to use to measure that. First empty it. It will show you, oh, this thing is empty before I start measuring. And that's what we are doing with the sum. Sum equals to 0. To be sure, nothing is inside the sum. So we now go for I is the index. I want to use I as an index. I equals to 0 to what? To 19. Now sum equals to sum plus I. So we pick the first thing 0. Add 0 to 0, still be 0. Next, I comes again. What's the next thing? You have 1. Does that until it gets to 19. Once it gets to 19, it leaves the for loop and go to the next line, which is to print sum. Which is to print sum. Which is to print sum. So this is what we have in terms of dealing with the for loop. So then we have other conditional looping. We've talked about iterating now. Conditional looping. This one is just for VB. Your for is just like you are looping. You are not looking at, you are just moving from one, you are picking something sequentially from this, or you are picking it in terms of step. If you put step there, step means that don't go sequentially this time around. Move from 1 to 2, 2 to 4. You can create steps in terms of not just moving from the first to the second to the third. Now, the step does that for you. So, but now look at conditional looping. Conditional looping, what it does for us is to be sure that there are conditions attached to what we have. So let's do a do loop statement is used in VB when the number of passes through a loop must go through 1. So what we are saying is that if I want to deal with a situation, and that situation want me to do a process first at least once, then I use the do loop will be appropriate for that kind of In the first and second form of do loop statement, they have, excuse me, the logical expression appears in the do statement. And so let's look at several of these things with example so we can move. So this is an example of what we have. You see this? One, I equals to this, do until this equals to 1. So it keeps doing this. Keeps doing this until, okay, Uche, just hold on. Once I'm through, I would give room for us to ask our questions. Then we can move to the practical aspects if time permits us, which I am trying to see how we can do that. Okay. Do we see that I equals to 1? Do until I equals to what? 11. So it keeps doing this. This loop says, okay, come. Oh, check. Okay, is it 1? Oh, once it's 11, it leaves. Now look at it. Do while this condition holds. Do while this is what I is less than or equal to. It keeps doing the same thing until I is less than. So these are basically the do we have in VB. So we have all of this. Now, this is the while. The while aspect is the do. We do whatever you have. We look at the condition. I will do it first and then keep examining the condition. Why the while? The while must first consider the expression before we talked about even executing. So let's look at the while when. While when. So for some of us who are used to other programming language like C, like Java, if you have, it becomes a little bit, you have to be careful because not the normal syntax, like the do, you do until then the loop tells you keep looping, or you do why that condition you keep. Now for the while is just while expression, you check the expression, then you use when, that is the while end. It's called the when to tell you the end of it. Just like say start here, this is where the scope of the loop is. And then we have all of that. So basically, these are the things we have and we have to deal with. So I will open the floor now for questions and some other things. Then we can now begin to see what we need to do before the time comes up in terms of practicals and all of that. So let me open. I have Uche, so let me open for Ross to ask our questions. Then we can now treat one of the questions we have there. Uche, you can unmute now. Uche.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. Sir, we don't understand. You were too fast. From that looping side, we don't understand what you're saying.
Okay, from the loop side. Okay,
yes,
let me explain. Let me explain now. The loop is that we have two types. Let me just break it down. We have the selection type. And the selection type is the if and the select case. Are we together? Is that, let's follow now. Let's follow through. Just hold on. So we have that. We have the two, which is what? We have so let me quickly go back there and see where. Okay, so this is, we have two types. We have the if. The if is just like, I want to make decisions. And I have several decisions to make. So I will ask, is it a single decision? Is it a single thing I need to consider? If it is, I just use if that condition holds, then do something, which is this. If the expression, then execute this statement, then end it. If all I want to consider is the girls, if a variable enter equals to girl, then welcome all the guests. That's all. If I now says, no, I want to consider both boys and girls, I want to send 2 different messages to them. I can either pick one because I know we only have boys and girls. We don't have, if that is the only thing we have. Male, let me use word to make it easier, male or female. Let me just use that, male or female. If I'm just considering female, I have nothing to do with the male. I'll just go to just a singular if. If whatever input entered is female, do this. I don't need to put any other thing because I'm not concerned. But if this is also has to do with the female and the male, I can say, if what I have is male, do this. Else, I know it's female, do this for the female. So that is for, okay, we have wisdom. You raise up your hands. I just want to see if, based on what I'm saying, so that we can quickly get to the practical sessions and then explain some things. Wisdom.
Okay, sir. Sir, I just wanted to like explain. I wanted to collect your permission if I could like add something that will make her understand better, sir.
Okay, fine. Let's hear from you if you feel.
Okay, like let's say salary is like the variable. Let's say I am owing her, let's say I have 5,000 naira. So it is saying if I'm owing her, that is the logical expression, then she should minus it and give me my balance.
Okay, so like while I'm trying, when I got the expression is also a thing you could we could use basically to do that. Like it's just simple. I have to decide on something. So if whatever I want to decide on, like I said, whatever I want to decide on is something I know it. So that logical expression is considering that condition I want to deal with. So once I'm able to, hello, mute yourself. That's why I've been muting everybody.
Well, I think that we got a lot of connection there to yes, during let me continue with
it's just because we're in the question and answer. I just want people to participate. That's why I asked some of you. Hello, please mute yourself.
And without being a prophet of doom, I'm just praying that we need not every indication.
No, tell you about. You can forget everything.
So sorry, I have to mute everybody, not to allow anybody, because we have to be cautious that we are in a class. It's because I want an interaction towards the tail end. That's the reason why I asked us to. That's why I asked us to. That's why I unmute us to be able to have that interaction. But some of us, either we are lost in whatever we're doing and not following that. So, if logical expression means that condition I want to test, is it true? If that condition I want to test is true, then I should do something. Like, let me give another illustration. If I asked you to enter your gender, everybody will enter a different thing. Is that not? Some will enter a male and some will enter female. We have a variable or something that kept that gender. Gender is the, and we have entered several values. Some have entered their own is male, some have entered their own is female. Now, if I want to test a particular entry, I will say, if what is the variable that we use to store those values is gender. If gender equals male, then I can send a message, and that message could be, oh, well, welcome to onboard female student. Else, I can send a message, welcome on board male student. So you see that gender variable that people are, whatever is taught there, is that logical expression. If that expression, this equals to this, or this is less, or this is this, that is the logical expression I'm using to determine if that logical expression at that point is true, I should do something. If it's false, so, and then if I have what can be more than one condition, I can use more than the single or the if else. I can use else if statement. The same thing with the select. Select case is the same thing. I have select case, gender. I will now put case male, case female, and do the same thing. Then case else, maybe I can say, oh, you are expected to enter either male or female in the variable gender. So that is what we have in terms of these two. These two, all of these, what I've explained is what we have in all of these. You decide the expression, and after you have done that of the expression, you do. So now for loop is that for the first one, unconditional means that I'm just iterating, I'm just moving from one thing to the other. There's no condition. There's no condition. That is for VB, for VB. For in VB, I'm just creating a loop from one point to the other. I'm just moving. I'm just using that as a counter to move. The counter means, okay, from here, count this one to this. So I'm saying 1 to 10. So I'm saying 1 after 1, go to 2, go to 3 until you get to 10. And then this is all about the for loop. It's all about the for loop. Then we have seen it. Then conditional one is the do until. And then the do until, do while. So do until means that I have I is 1, do until I equals to 11. So it keeps doing this until the value of I. So I add 1 to it, comes again until that. Then look at this loop. Loop here means that this is within. From do until I is this, up to loop. Loop means that go back, check the condition, do. Then the same thing with do while. The do while will be, okay, do while this is this. So first thing is that it comes here, print 1, goes back again, do while until this is done. So this is just like checking condition. And then if the condition, for example, say do while I is less than or equals to 10. What is I? I is what? Is 1. We'll first print 1, goes back again, add 2, check for 2, then go back again, add 1, 3, check for 3, until it gets to 10. Oh, is 10 less than or equals to 10? Yes. It goes on. Now when it's get to 11, no, it's still on the loop. Yes, here to 11. 11 less than or equals to 10, no, it leaves the loop. That's what this do loop will do. It will keep until this condition, you keep adding 1. Yes, I equals to I plus 1. Keep adding from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. It keeps going. I'm printing what I is. Keep going until it gets to where this I is now 11. We'll now check. Is 11 less than or equals to 10? No, 11 is not less than, not equals to 10. That means this condition is not, then it can now leave and then leave the loop. So that's basically, then the last one is while, which is that look at why this expression, then it goes, then when, and now does the printer. So this is basically what we have in terms of. So let's what do we have now? So okay, I will look at what we need to do. We have 5 minutes more. Looking at can we still do 1 or 2 things before the time, or do we move to the last lecture and then we solve one of it, or can we solve it now? So what do we think? Can we, because we have just 5 minutes.
Solve it.
You said what?
Sir, the visual
I should
basics.
solve it. I should solve one.
Yes, sir.
I will. Okay. Can we? Hello. I hope everybody. Maybe that means we have to spend maybe additional 10 minutes.
People having a class now.
After 10. You said?
Some people are having a class.
That's what I'm saying. That's the reason why I am trying to bring everything. Or next week Tuesday, because we are rounding up next week Tuesday. So next week, let's leave that to next week Tuesday. Then I give this instruction because several people have been asking several questions, and one of it is solved, which I believe I've explained all the parts you need to know about what you need to do in resolving this. Then secondly, what we have not done is the command, how to place your control, how to use property on them. We talked about them. The only thing left is that assurance that there's no issue with the logbook, is that a command, how you place code within, which I want to use the first one to do. I think that would be the first thing we will do. And then we just talked about internet. Within 1 hour next week, we should be done with the whole class. And then that will be the end of the lecture, except if there are needs or things we need to do. Okay, so Adu, your hands is up, so let me listen to you.
So,
Yes.
sir, please, is the deadline to submit our course manual, is it this week?
We will pass. I've heard several things, several comments. There is no deadline yet. I hope that is clear. There is no urgent deadline, but we encourage students to get the logbook as fast as possible, and then to start. If you can solve it, fine, because the modality is likely going to come in the form, because you have over 1,000, 2,000 plus students, and asking them to flood a particular place to submit might cause some little bit of if there are no proper crowd control, if everybody storm the same place at the same time, there might be issue. So we want to avoid a lot of that, so that we can put the responsibility on your course reps and few of us who will work with him or her to gather and to have a list. So you have about 2 or 3 or 4 people within your class who will be in charge, that we collate and put down the names of those who submitted, because you have to submit and the counting will be done when you get to where to submit. Because if we give it that individual to flock, we find out that might be issue of over, if, for example, 500 of you or wants to submit within a specific time, there might be issues in attending. So please take note of this. All class reps, take note. Pick, it might be too tedious for you. Pick somebody, or maybe pick about 3 or 4 people you can work with to do the collation. Then you can come to the department when the time comes, when we'll give you when you should bring it. So if the course reps are coordinating it and they are getting it, then they feel they have enough for them to come and drop, they can come around, then give the room where they will drop those manual with the list and with the counting of it. Makes it easier and better. Okay, somebody raised up his hand, and because we are true, it's already fine. So, okay. All right. Virginie, you raised up your hand. And then Michael also. So let me take your questions before we call it a day.
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. As regards the submission, sorry, the assignment, if we really do not get it
Can we like come to your office for like proper verification on how exactly to do?
I didn't get you. You
If
said
not exactly
if, can you please speak a little bit louder? Or you can send a message.
About the project, if we really don't understand on how to go about it, can we like come to
And you know, you know where yes, okay, to come for explanation if you okay, fine. You know, one thing is that if you have access to get me, and no problem. If you can do that, no problem. I wouldn't say I will have to deprive. If you have the access and you know how to get that, then once I find few people I can explain, I do that a lot, so that won't be a problem. But you know, opening it for almost how many numbers of students? It's going to because I have about over 5. But if there's a way you can get, I'm always available. And then if you can get, fine, no problem. I hope that's answer your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. All right, Michael. Yes, I will. I'm done with what I have. On those who are asking for the slide will be sent in maybe an hour's time. I will send the slides to where people can have access.
Send us the link to download Visual Basic.
You just have 2 questions.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so you can be asking your question. You know, we are done with the class.
Okay,
So
I just want to ask that can we start submitting at the end of this week?
I've given the format. Get through to your governor and then drop with him, because submitting individually might cause this crowd. For now, they're having exams, and then you know they're batching exams and all of that. So I don't want to say, okay, this is within this period, and then you get the point. So I think giving it to your governor is the best way, so that we can reduce the kind of crowd. We are over 2,000, so we don't want the situation whereby it will look as if something else is going on. But you can give it if you are done. You can get in touch with your governor. I've told all governors to pick up to, if possible, 3 or 4, even if it's 5 people, to work with them, so you can get it compiled and have your name. Then they can bring it not as individual but collectively to the department. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, please. Okay, all right. Okay.
Excuse me.
Sir, please, is it our course rep?
You said?
You're mentioning our governor. Is it our course rep?
Yes, the course rep. Sorry, I know in some places they said governor is course rep.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So we're meant to submit the assignment on the course rep.
Yes, do that and let him have your name written down. You must, it's very, very important.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. It's on the logbook.
Okay.
We have to attempt it, right?
Sir, I have a question.
You said?
Sir, I have a question.
Go ahead. That's why I'm trying to attend to questions before I leave.
Okay, sir. Sir, concerning the logbook, those parts that say the analysis, the implementation, and the output. Yes. So are we like just going to write what we analyzed about it? The implementation, that is the code, and the output, are we going to draw what it brought out?
No, you like the implementation. If your code can take that place, you can have that. But if you feel that your code might not, and you just want to print it out, you can print and attach.
What of the output, sir?
The output you can print, yes. Now, if you have the output, you can print the output.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So it's not like the appendix you just have to attach to where you have implementation. Just attach your output, fold it on it, and then submit. Some people can rule it and then be able to write out all of this, but some feels that it's robust enough. You can do that.
So I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we need the link to download it because when I tried downloading it on my Windows, it did not download.
Okay,
so
I will send links.
Mind if you can send the link.
Now I will send links and I'll
Thank you, sir.
And for those using because of time, some people are having they're having lecture, another lecture. If not, and I don't want anybody to miss out. That's why I've moved using Visual Studio 2022 to next week. We're going to. So we are using VB. For those asking what programming language we are using VB. And I've said you can use the VB6 IDE or the Visual Studio. So I will deal with Visual Studio next week. I think I will stick with Visual Studio since most people are complaining they can't get the VB6. So I will use Visual Studio to explain first thing next week because we have dealt with the loop, variables, declaration. And so we'll go straight for the first 1 hour to solve. Then I'll just explain the last part. Yes, Visual Basics. All right, so any other question?
I have a question.
Yes, you are using Visual Basics to do the assignment.
Sir, what is the deadline for the assignments?
I said I will get that to you guys before next week.
Hello, sir.
I have a question. Answer, I have a question.
Go ahead, ask your question.
Sorry, sir. Is it to the class rep or the course rep we are submitting?
Course rep. Well, you have to, it's just one person. It's the course rep, class rep or course rep, whichever one. Class rep is the nomenclature.
Hello, sir. I wanted to ask you, can you just forward the exe files to our email so we're able to download it next time?
No problem. No problem. If I have, I think you know it's a little bit. If you want, I don't have my number or my email. If you want some other thing, but
sir, I'll send you my email now, sir, on the group chat.
Okay, so maybe I will just.
And also, can we just create another time for the class? I'm not sure if that needs to be able to like fit in all the lecture we'll be taking. You will have 2 hours.
No, next week I will only have just intro to internet now. If you look at from the books and everything, just what is internet, web, protocols, just explain IP. Just within 30 minutes, we should really deal with that. But that's why next week, first 1 hour, 21 hour, 20 minutes, we are dealing with all the interface. We are seeing how code works and it.
How about the Visual Studio? We'll be talking about it next week also.
Yes. That's where we are starting. We are starting with Africa on. I would solve the first question here. For those who have done it, fine. For those who are still struggling, I will solve how to deal with this thing. I will solve the first question here, which is the one I talked about now. That is question 1. I will solve and explain using Visual Studio what is expected, the code part, and all of that. I will do that next week. It's because people are going for lecture now. Like I just said, I don't want people to miss out. Okay, go ahead.
On the analysis and the implementation, can we use pencil or pen in writing it?
You can use pencil if you feel, but let it be visible enough for people who want to check it to see.
Is it like we can also print and paste it too, right?
You can, yes, if you feel that makes easier things. But in your in the analysis part, you have to explain. It's not on the code. Yes. Oh, these are the things I use for my input. I expected this to come. Or this process should be this, and then this should be my expected output. It is in the design. The design said, if you can draw, it's just a window. The form, I've given a typical example. This is how my design is and all of that. And this is typical. If you want, you can do just a little flow chart of how it is if you want to put all of those. But those are the things that explain how the design will be. Then you can add a flow chart of how you feel your flow if you can develop one. Fine, that's where the design comes. The implementation is purely your code, how you intersect all of those code. Then you can now bring out your final output and everything that you can just print out from whatever package you have used. I think that will make it much more better.
So,
Please, the meeting
it's
is it
visual.
the computer?
You said?
The person who was submitting the assignment, is it the course rep of computer?
No, your own course rep.
Okay, for our own department.
For your own department, it's well coordinated. That you know your course rep, you submit. Course rep of department, we handle his own department. We handle our own department.
Okay. So it's only Visual Basic that we are using. We can't use Visual Studio for the assignments.
You said?
Can we also use Visual Studio for the assignment once you know about the Visual Studio?
Visual Studio, yes. I've said I'm going to run Visual Studio next week and show you the VB form part of Visual Studio. You are not meant to use any other code. In Visual Studio, there is this same setting that is there that you can use.
Okay, sir.
Because people are asking Visual Studio. Visual Studio is just like an IDE that is robust enough to run HTML code, to run all other programming language within that IDE. I can configure my Visual Studio to run my Python code if I create interpreter from there and install some extension that will help me do that. I can write C. I can write C++. But what programming language you are using in Visual Studio is the VB. That, I think, is where people are missing it up. I hope that is clear now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Karim, let me just take you. I think you should be the last person. Karim.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Oh, sorry, Kazim. I said Karim, Kazim.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
While doing the assignment, can we also add some background or images to it?
How
I just
you
want
were
to
doing
know,
what?
like when we are doing the assignment, when we are doing the assignment, I want to know if we can just add some colors or background or something like that to it.
Yes, you can. You can. It's just
Okay.
you can. That's why it's an assignment. You can play around it and then achieve. That's why we are teaching all of those processes. Don't be too much concerned about but if you feel you want to beautify, make it very fine. But solve the problem, which is also very, very crucial in dealing with what you have. No problem.
Okay, sir.
That's
Okay,
no.
sir.
That's okay. I think Quadri and Titi Loye quickly.
Morning,
we have exceeded our time.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, for the implementation code, shall we write it or can we print it?
You can print it. I've said that.
Okay, sir.
If you want to write, if you feel what you have done can take that space, go ahead, write it. But if not, you can print and just, okay, my implementation is attached. Then you attached it.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Titi Loye, you are the last person, then I will.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, to write it inside the logbook, can we use both pen and pencil?
Anyone you feel is visible enough.
No, I mean using the both, using the pencil to draw, and using the biro
yes,
to
you
write.
you can. But
Okay,
I
sir.
always advise people to do something so that you don't be used canceling, and all of that. But if you are sure you have drawn whatever you want to draw, you have done the visual, and then you just feel the pen will just write something, you don't need to cancel. Fine.
Okay.
Make it neat. Neatness is also very important when you are dealing with someone.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I can also use pen or true.
Yes, and if you feel there is
Okay.
going to be neat. You get my
Okay,
point.
okay.
Pencil is all like, in the case there is error, I can easily erase
Yes, so I'll
it
clean.
and then
Okay,
make it
okay, sir.
neat.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. So I think at this junction, thank you for having me. Thank you for the class. We see next week, and I think that should be the final time. All right. Thank you so much.